Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Get ready because we're diving straight into the next chapter of our incredible journey. I know you've all been on the edge of your seats, and trust me, Chapter 5 of Amr Abdelhamid's Land of Zykola is going to be absolutely captivating. Thanks for being here, and let's get into it. Khaled's feet froze in place. His pupils widened, and his heartbeat quickened the moment he heard her words. He rushed back to her and asked anxiously, "What did you say?" But he found that she had rested her head on the table and lost consciousness. He called out to her again, shouting her name, but she didn't respond. He tried to make her open her eyes, urging her to repeat what she had said. He even struck the table with his hand to wake her, but it was no use. Finally, he took her head in his hands and lifted it back, then sat down in front of her. Slowly she opened her eyes and looked at him in confusion. He asked again, "What did you say at the end of your sentence?" She smiled faintly, looked at him and asked, "Who are you?" He stood up immediately and asked a waiter where he could find an empty room. The waiter pointed toward one of the doors, so he hurriedly lifted the girl onto his shoulder. She laughed foolishly as he carried her, while the other girls in the place whispered among themselves, glancing at her with jealousy. He reached the door, kicked it open, and entered with her, still laughing. He set her down on the floor, then continued inside and found a large bowl of water. Carrying it back to her, he poured the entire thing over her head. She screamed from the cold, and he asked, "Do you remember who I am now?" She looked at him silently, not answering. He grabbed another bowl and poured it over her again. She shrieked, I remember you. Please, no more water." He immediately asked, who was it that killed his father to inherit him, only to end up inheriting a book instead? The girl fell silent, as if searching her memory, then asked, "Did I tell you about that?" Khaled replied eagerly, "Yes." She looked at him and said, "All right, what do you want from him?" He answered, "I need to reach him no matter what. I must find that book, and its owner." "Do you know him?" She stood up, her clothes and hair still dripping wet, walked a few steps, and sat down on a chair. Looking at him, she said, "Yes, I know him. I can show you where he is right now, if you give me 20 units of your intelligence." Khaled rushed toward her, saying, "Deal." The girl laughed. "Very well. I'll take you there, but wait until I change my clothes." Khaled went with the girl, now dressed in dry clothes, to a distant street. She told him that the house of the book's owner was at the far end. As they walked, Khaled's mind raced, replaying what she had said, that the young man had killed his father to inherit him. He feared that what he was about to discover would shock him beyond belief. They finally arrived before a modest house. Khaled asked, "Is he inside?" She replied, "Yes." He was surprised. "Why isn't he outside like the rest of the people in the northern district?" She answered, "That's how he is. After killing his father and realizing he had inherited nothing, he lost all hope. He stays in his house most of the time, growing worse every day, as if he's waiting to be sacrificed on the day of Zikola." And then she knocked on the door. After a few moments, a young man in his 20s opened it. The girl pointed to him and said, "Here he is, the owner of the book. As for me, I must get back to work." She winked at Khaled and added, "There are others waiting for me." Khaled looked at her and said, "Thank you anyway." "Yes." I translated the passage into natural English so it reads as if originally written in English, while preserving the meaning. The girl left, and Khaled looked at the young man standing before him, studying him until the young man asked, "Who are you?" Khaled's surprise grew when he found the young man's voice sounded like his own. The young man asked again, anger showing on his face. "Who are you?" Khaled replied, "I'm asking for your help." The young man repeated, "Help?" "Yes," Khaled answered. I learned that you inherited a book from your father and have kept it for 20 years. The young man drew a deep breath. Yes. Khaled smiled. May I come in and talk for a bit? When he sensed the young man's refusal, he added, I'll give you 5 intelligence points for the conversation. All right, the young man said, but don't waste my time. You must leave quickly. I don't like strangers. Khaled went inside with him and noticed how poor he was. The miserable life that showed in his clothes and on the floor of his house where empty liquor bottles lay. He watched him closely and finally asked, Did you really kill your father? The young man snapped angrily. What business is it of yours? He stood up, took a few steps away, and picked up a wine bottle. Then he looked at Khaled and said, Yes, I killed him. He only brought me poverty. He went on, I think my mother died long ago because of his madness. Khaled asked at once, Your mother? She died? Yes, the young man answered. A long time ago. I don't even remember her. I wish she had lived and he had died instead. Khaled asked, Why do you hate him so much? The young man, after taking a sip of liquor, replied, I hate him because he was mad. Can you believe someone would spend his stockpile of intelligence on a damned book, and then spend what remained of his intelligence obsessing over that book? He was lucky he found someone poorer than him in Zikola, otherwise he would have been slaughtered years before I killed him. Khaled asked, What's your name? My name is Hilal. He gave me that name, the young man answered. Khaled immediately asked, And your father's name? The young man replied angrily, He was called Husni. Khaled's heart pounded. His face flushed as if the truth he had been waiting for had burned him. He said, Husni Abdelkawi. The young man was astonished. Yes, do you know him? Khaled fell silent and some tears fell. He bent forward and placed his head in his hands, then spoke in a calm voice. Your father was a stranger here. He came to Zikola 27 years ago with your mother. He used to tell you about Egypt and about the Sirdab Forik. Hilal's surprise increased and he looked at Khaled, who continued. But he couldn't protect you from the ways of Zikola, and your worry became like theirs. Wealth. Khaled rose and stepped closer, snatched the bottle from Hilal's hand and put it away, then asked, Did you notice the small resemblance between us? Did you notice my voice sounds like yours? He continued, You are Hilal Husni, and I am Khaled Husni. He stepped back, drew a deep breath, and let it out slowly, then looked at him and added, I'm your brother, and you killed our father, because you're the son of Zikola. Hilal shouted at him, You must be mad yourself. Then he pushed him. Get out of here. Khaled shouted back angrily, tears still on his face. I really am your brother. Hilal pushed him again. Get out, you madman. Do I need any more madness to have you come to me as well? Khaled looked at him as if seeing him kill their father. He wiped his tears and asked, Where's the book? Hilal answered angrily, What do you want with the book? I need the book because I want to return to my country, and you can come with me, Khaled said. Hilal laughed mockingly. I see you've inherited Dad's madness. Wait. He frowned, walked into another room, and came back with an old book whose pages were thick and worn. Khaled hurried over and snatched it when he saw the title. Sirdab Forik. He began flipping through the yellowed pages eagerly, his heart racing until he reached a page in the middle of the book with a large handwritten heading, The Road to the Sirdab Forik. He was about to read it when Hilal grabbed the book from him and said sarcastically, You want this book? Yes, Khaled said eagerly. Hilal laughed and muttered to himself, Now the book's useful. Then he looked at Khaled. Okay, you'll have to buy it. Khaled was silent for a moment, then asked, How much do you want? Hilal smiled, paced back and forth, and said, I see you're in desperate need of the book. Yes, Khaled said. Okay, if you want it, you must give me 400 of your intelligence points, Hilal said. 400 points? Khaled cried at once. Hilal calmly took up his bottle again. Yes, you rich man. 400. Believe me, I'm your brother, Khaled said. Hilal laughed scornfully. If I could be sure you're my brother, I'd kill you to inherit you. He fell silent. Khaled's distress grew. He asked, Did your father leave anything else? He left only this book. Do you still want to buy it? Hilal answered. He laughed mockingly and added, Come on, it's only 400 points. Khaled fell silent again as if thinking. He kept quiet so long that Hilal asked, Don't you have them now? Khaled moved a few steps, then looked at him. I have them, but I'm preserving my stockpile of intelligence. I can earn the price with work, and I'll come back to buy it in 2 months from today. Please keep the book. Hilal sat back and turned away. All right, I'll wait for you to return. But if you're even 1 day late after the 2 months, I'll tear out 10 pages for every day you're late, even if it means I tear it apart entirely. It means nothing to me. Now don't waste any time. Go back the way you came. Khaled nodded silently, then turned away and left. He exhaled a long, weary breath and murmured to himself, He is my brother, and my father's killer. Khaled left Hilal's house, the owner of the book, and wandered among the people, through their music and endless noise, his mind burning with thoughts. Countless ideas clashed in his head, and his heart wrestled between one feeling and another. Should he be happy for finding his book? Or mourn the death of a father and mother he had never even met? Should he despise the reckless young man who might be his brother, the one whose greed drove him to demand such a steep price for the book? How could he possibly gather 400 units in just 2 months? And when he returned to reclaim the book, should he take it and leave his brother behind? Or take him along? He clutched his head as if he could no longer think, and whispered to himself, My goal now is to get the book. He went to the place he had sat when he first arrived in the northern district, and found the man who had lent him a horse. He approached to take it back, but the man refused until Khaled paid him 2 more units. Then Khaled mounted the horse and rode away, choosing a quiet place to rest until sunrise, when he would return east, to Asil, to Yaman, and to his work. The next morning, Khaled packed his things, mounted his horse, and rode through the empty streets toward the edge of the northern district. When he reached the start of the road leading east, he turned his horse toward the city one last time, as though bidding it farewell until he returned in 60 days, then turned back and urged the horse forward. Time passed as Khaled rode eastward, his thoughts consumed only by the book, by that single page that revealed the path to the Vault of Furik. His hope of escaping grew stronger. All he needed now were the units Hilal demanded in exchange for the book. His hope. By the time he reached the eastern district, the sun had already set. He headed for the lake and was surprised to see a fire burning near the tree where he used to rest. Yaman was waiting there. Khaled dismounted and embraced him warmly. Did you find your book? Yaman asked at once. Khaled smiled. Yes. And where is it? Yaman pressed eagerly. Khaled was about to answer, but a familiar voice came from behind him. I feared you wouldn't return. He turned and found Asil wiping tears from her eyes. She stepped forward and embraced him with a trembling smile. I came here hoping I'd see you. Yaman smiled when he saw her in Khaled's arms, then cleared his throat pointedly. Asil blushed and sat down beside Khaled as if she couldn't bear to be apart from him. Khaled began to tell them what had happened in the northern district, but he left out the encounter with the girl of the night. When Asil asked curiously about everything there, especially about the women of that district, Khaled simply told her that someone had guided him to the young man named Hilal. When he finished, Asil asked softly, Is he truly your brother? Khaled nodded. All signs point to it. His father owned the book. His name is Hosni Abdelkawi, and he spoke to him about Egypt. Yaman frowned. It might be someone else from your country with the same name. That doesn't mean he's your father. But he looks like me, Khaled said. Even his voice sounds like mine, though his manner is pure Zikolan. Yaman chuckled. You mean northern manners. Then he asked, how will you save 400 units in 2 months when you earn only 1 or 2 a day after food and protection? Khaled fell silent until Asil spoke up. Maybe you can work with me. I'll pay you 4 units a day. Yaman smiled. Our work takes the whole day. We need the night to rest, so we can keep going. Asil fell quiet. So did Khaled, until he finally said, I can live on bread alone. Yaman laughed. All right then. You earn 4 units a day, spend 2 on protection, 1 on food. That leaves 1 unit daily. You won't reach 460 days. Khaled paused, then said, I can save 6 units a day. By the end of 2 months, I'll have 360. I'll add 40 from my reserve and buy the book. Asil warned him gently. Your reserve, Khaled. You've been using too much of it. Khaled smiled. I'll work after those 2 months until the day of Zikola. I'll restore everything I spend. Yaman, who had listened quietly, laughed. You're clever with numbers, my friend. But tell me, how will you save 6 units a day? Khaled turned to him with a sly smile. Where are the Zikolan workers now? Most are eating or relaxing outside their homes, Yaman replied. Khaled stood and looked at Asil. Go home, he said gently. She frowned. What are you going to do? I'm coming with you. He smiled and started walking. Asil and Yaman followed, both curious. They went through the streets until they reached a small restaurant that served bread and chicken. Inside were many of the workers who toiled with Khaled cutting stone. Khaled approached the owner and asked, How much for a chicken? 5 units, the man replied. And how many workers buy it from you? The man laughed mockingly and pointed to the customers. Look at them. They only eat bread. I might sell 1 chicken if a rich man like you shows up. Khaled smiled calmly. How about this? You sell all your chickens every 2 days. The man stared at him, as did Asil and Yaman, confused. Of course I'd like that, said the man. Good, Khaled said. Then make the price 4 units instead of 5. The man's face darkened. Are you joking? Khaled kept smiling. No. Make it 4 units, and I promise you'll earn more than you ever imagined. The man hesitated, thinking it over. Finally he said, Fine, 4 units, but what are you planning? Asil turned to Khaled. I don't understand any of this. He smiled. Just wait. He stepped into the dining hall and called out loudly, Who here eats only bread? Everyone laughed and raised their bread in the air. Who would like to eat chicken every 2 days? They looked at him, puzzled, some still chewing, assuming he was joking. Without paying from what you save each day, he added. A worker scoffed. Are you mad, stranger? I'm not mad, Khaled replied. But I want you to do what I'm about to do. Eat chicken every 2 days. Then, in a firm voice, I break stone for a living. I have enough strength to face my fears. Yet every day, I pay 2 units to a bunch of lazy men who feed off my labor. Not anymore. I won't give them 1/10 of a unit. If they want to kill me, let them. I'd rather die on the day of Zikola than pay for fear. The workers stopped eating. Asil watched him in admiration, while Yaman whispered, He's even speaking in their dialect. He dropped his own accent. Asil gestured for him to be quiet, eager to hear more. Khaled stepped between the tables, his voice growing steady and strong. Alone, I can't stop them. But together we can. We'll make them work like us, or face the blade on Zikola's day. No more stealing our labor. He stopped beside a table of 3 men and continued, "How can you fear them when they are so few? You're good men, kind and forgiving. But if you unite, you can end this injustice." He took a few more steps, his tone softening. "In my world, there are people just like you, still waiting for the day they'll rise. History remembers their shame." Then his voice thundered again. "Today they demand 2 units. Tomorrow they'll demand 3, then 4, then 5. Who knows? One day they might make you their slaves." He turned to face the room's corner and cried out, "You trade in units of intelligence. Your minds are your currency. Then use them for once in your lives. Use them to live. Use them to be proud." Yaman shouted, "I won't pay anyone to protect me. I can protect myself." Asil rose, her eyes fierce. "And I too. Whoever wants my units will have to kill me first." A young man called out, "I won't pay either." An older worker joined him. "Nor I. I've paid enough. I'll pay no more until I die." Then a strong young man stood, raising his axe high. "I'll break their bones. They're not tougher than the rocks I break every day." And then the crowd erupted. "We won't pay, we won't pay. No more bread, we'll eat what we want." Khaled's face flushed as he smiled. He turned to Yaman and embraced him, then to Asil, who hugged him tightly and closed her eyes, whispering to herself, "How I love you, Khaled." Then aloud, softly in his ear, "This day will be written in Zikola's history." Khaled smiled back. "When I look at your face, Asil, I see hope." She blushed and smiled shyly. Khaled turned to Yaman. "Come on, my friend. Return the horse to its owner and get some rest. We start work tomorrow." He looked once more at the workers dancing with joy and said, smiling, "Tomorrow, I start saving for my book." And so, Khaled awakened the minds of Zikola's laborers, persuading them to stop paying for their so-called protection. They cheered and danced in triumph, while Asil and Yaman looked on, their hearts swelling with pride for what he had done. The next day, Khaled headed early to work. He found 10 of the men who collected protection units standing in his way, as usual. They approached him to take what they wanted, but he smiled and kept walking until one of them stopped him harshly and shouted, "Come on, pay your 2 units." Khaled smiled again and continued walking, so the man stopped him once more and demanded the 2 units again. Khaled replied calmly, "I'm not paying." Their faces showed anger, and one of them laughed mockingly. "You're not paying?" Khaled answered, "That's right." The man shouted angrily, "Do you know what's going to happen to you?" Khaled smiled. "No." Their anger grew even stronger, and they were about to hit him when they suddenly saw him pointing toward a thick cloud of dust in the air. He laughed and said, "Look." They looked up at the dust, then below it, where they saw hundreds of workers running toward them, carrying their axes and tools, led by Yaman. As they drew near, Khaled said, "You'd better run, or you'll pay dearly today." Their leader shouted to one of them, "Go bring the others." But before he could finish, the workers had already reached them. One of them threw his axe to Khaled, who caught it with a smile and waved it before shouting loudly to the workers, "They don't believe that we won't pay them anymore." Then, as his axe glinted in the light, he added, "Let's prove it to them." He struck one of them with the axe, and as soon as he did, the workers roared and charged at the rest, beating them fiercely as if they had been waiting for this moment all along. Even the one who had gone to call reinforcements fled, when he saw his comrades crushed under a storm of axes and sticks. When it was over, and the workers calmed down, blood ran down the faces of the collectors. Khaled asked them, "Do you still want the units?" They stayed silent. He looked at some of the workers and said, "It seems they still do." So they hit them again until the men screamed, "We don't want anything. We don't want anything." Yaman shouted angrily, "Then leave this area if you won't work. If we see you here again, we won't stop at what happened today." One of them shouted back desperately, "All right, all right." Then they scrambled up and ran away. The workers cheered with joy, dancing and singing, "We'll eat chicken, we'll eat chicken, we are strong." Yamin embraced Khaled and whispered, "They might come back with more tomorrow." Khaled laughed. "I don't think so. They've seen your unity. Next time you might kill them all. Did you see what happens when you finally use your brains?" He lifted his axe and pulled Yamin by the hand. "Come on, my friend, we've got plenty of work to do." Yamin laughed. "You're starting to talk like one of us." Khaled laughed too, then replied in his old accent, "I've become one of Zikola's own." Then switching back to their local tone, he added, "Come on, I'll race you today. I'll work twice as hard as you." Yamin laughed. "You're dreaming." Khaled laughed as he ran toward the work site. "Dreaming, am I? You'll see." Yamin ran after him, shouting, "Wait!"